All right, now I want to teach you a technique for the edges of this glass table so that they look even better. Okay, so we're going to do this in 3ds Max where we imported the object. So let's go to 3ds Max. Okay, so let me just make sure to hide this. Oh, I think it's grouped, so let me just ungroup the whole thing and unhide all. Let's go inside and find this glass table. Okay, make sure that this is ungrouped. Okay, so it's this glass table right here. Let me just select it. I don't think we need to ungroup this, it's just one object. All right, okay. So the trick is to import the edges of this one object, which is this whole glass table, separately. Okay, so that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is to detach this glass table from the bottom part so that it's just one separate object. So I select it and detach it with this button. Okay, now it's a separate object. Next, I'm going to select all the polygons on the top, the bottom, and the sides of this glass table. Deselect the top and bottom, and I have this side polygons. I'm going to detach everything again. Okay, so they are separate. So right now we have three objects. We have this bottom part, we have the whole glass, and the sides. So now I'm going to select everything and create a datasmith export out of this, like so. Okay, and I'm gonna put it here in this destination. I'm gonna call it new. Okay, new DL. Okay, so we wait a little for this to be completed, and then we are ready to go back to Unreal. Let me just check. Okay, so we go back to Unreal Engine. Now we have to delete this table, this object altogether. So I'm gonna delete this. And now we're going to import this table again. So import file. And let me just find it on my desktop. Okay. So we just imported the table again. Let's wait for it to be loaded. All right, now we have to change the placement of a few things so that it's under the objects over there. So I'm gonna have to go to the wireframe view mode for everything to be easier. Okay, so let me just hide the floor and stuff nearby the table so that everything's a lot easier. Now I can just select the table and move it to the right slightly, put it there, make sure the placement is okay. And okay, let me just fix it there. Okay, now we can give the material to the glass table, the material that we just made. So I'm going to drag the instance onto the glass part. It's here. Okay, let me just double check, go back to lit there. And for the bottom part, we had this golden brass material that I'm going to have to give again. Let me see if I can find it inside these folders. If I couldn't find it, we're going to have to go to Quixel Bridge and find it from there. Okay, so I'm not seeing it, so I think I may have to go to Quixel Bridge and find that golden brass material there. Let's see, local there. Okay, golden brass. So we're going to use this one for the bottom part of the table. Add it and drag it onto this object. Okay, right now we cannot see the floor and everything because I hit everything, so I can press Ctrl H on my keyboard so that everything gets back and we have a better view, and that's what I'm going to do in a second. Let me see. Okay, so this is the new table. Now we're going to create the edges ourselves. We're going to create a different material for the edges. So I go to the shader folder where I create all my materials, and what I'm going to do is to create a duplicate of this glass material that we had, called this glass 2, for example. Okay, so it has all the same qualities. All I'm going to do is to create a new color for it. So I'm gonna press 3 on my keyboard, get one of these RGB nodes, link it into base color, and choose a kind of bluish color for the edges. Okay, so I'm going to create a parameter out of it, call this color also, apply and save, and go back to main and start working on it. Now I'm going to duplicate this glass 2, create an instance, go to wireframe, make sure the edges are selected, and then apply this into these edges. Okay, so I'm gonna grab it there. Okay, so right now the edges of our glass table has a different material in terms of color. It's the same thing with a different color. Now let me just tweak it. Let me just delete everything down here because we don't need these for the edges, and I'm going to delete metallic too. So we have a roughness parameter and we need a new parameter for opacity. So I'm going to convert this into parameter, put 1 for it. Okay, let's call this opacity. Okay, and I think these 3 values are enough, so I'm going to apply everything and save it, go back to main. Okay, all right, so let's check out the edges of the glass and see how much more realistic they got. Okay, now I think I made too many copies, so let me just do some house cleaning and tidy up this workplace, get rid of these, and check out if the right material is applied to the edges. Let's see, let me just check for a second. So the edges, I'm gonna select the edges and see if I created I applied the right material. Let's see. So let me just put view mode into wireframe, make sure the edges are selected, apply the material to this to these edges, go back to lit, check out the parameters. I think I need to apply an instance, so I'm going to create an instance out of glass 2 and apply that, go back. So I made too many copies, that was the problem. So right now we have these 3 parameters, and I can change the color into a bluish color, and then I can change the opacity to 0.5. Looks good. 0.8 maybe. All right, beautiful. And I think the edges are kind of like too bluish, so let me just change the color into a lighter tone of blue. You can use green as well, looks good. And I can even change the roughness so that they are kind of reflective, more reflective relatively. So let me just try that and see if it looks better. It looks great in my opinion, but let's just try that as well. 0.23, let's say 0.5. Let's check it out. Okay, they look great. They look awesome. So this is a very useful tip to use for the edges of the glass, and you can use it for a variety of different objects. So let's move on to these hanging lights. All right, for these ones we need to create a new material because the material that we used for the glass table is not gonna suit these hanging lights. That was good for this glass table, so we need to create something else from scratch, but it's not a problem. We're gonna do everything with the same principles. So let me just create a new one. Right click, new material. I'm gonna call this glass lamp, for example. Okay, I'm gonna double click on it and start adding some nodes here. A black and white node value. I'm gonna link it into base color. Then I'm gonna convert it into a parameter called color. Okay, I'm gonna add another one for roughness. Put the value at 0, and we need to go to the details panel, put it on translucent, and also scroll down. And for lighting mode, we use this surface forward option this time. So let's just add a lerp for the opacity as well. So I'm going to search for lerp, put it here, link it into opacity, and 2 simple black and white values for A and B, link them. Okay, and for alpha we're going to use Fresnel. Instead of Fresnel function, this time we're going to use a simple Fresnel, link it into alpha, and let's just convert these into parameters. Call this front, okay, for A, and call this side or left. Okay, I named it left, but I mean sides. So we have everything ready almost. Apply it and save and go back to main. Let's just drag this into the material for this lamp. All right, I think this is correct. Okay, so let's just wait for it to be loaded, and then we're gonna start working on it until they look good. Okay, so I'm going to create an instance from this material and use it for the other hanging light as well. So create an instance, drag it into the other one. Let's just drag it there. Okay, so this other one is using the same setting and options. All right, let me just drag this into the material again. I think it's this one, this top one. All right, so everything's there, but right now because the opacity is at 0, we cannot see it. So let's go to the parameters, change them until we see them. I'm gonna enable front and left. For front, I'm gonna increase it into 0.2. There, you can see it now. And let me just drag this instance for the one on the left so that I'm sure that they have the same setting there. Okay, now we can just move on. So I'm gonna increase the front. You can see it now better, but 0.2 would be good. For left or the sides, let's just increase it so that we can see it from the side as well. 0.5 maybe. Okay, looks good. Now for the color, I'm gonna use an RGB value instead of the black and white that we had. So I'm gonna delete this parameter, add an RGB, link it into base color. Now we can use different colors. I'm gonna convert it into a parameter called color again. So apply and go back. I'm gonna use a brownish color for the glass. So let's just go back, enable this parameter and choose a kind of a shade of brown for it. I'm gonna take my time, choose a color that fits my scene and looks good with the rest of the objects in the scene. This dark brown seems suitable. Okay, and after we are done finding the color, we can just change the roughness values again. So maybe a smaller value for the sides and a bigger value for the center or front. Okay, it looks good, but let me just tweak the color again so that it looks even better. So maybe a darker brown, something like this. Okay, too dark, but looks good. So I save it, go back, and now we have these beautiful glasses for these hanging lights that have a brown tint and shade. So compare this to the glass that we had when we started working on these hanging lights. And so this is the instance material that we are working on, and we can just change these values again if we want to. So alright, so this is the color that we used, and we can even tweak them even more so that it's just looks the way we want to. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm gonna choose an even darker brown, make sure it's not too dark but a little bit darker. It got a little bit black, so let me just choose the correct color. Okay, change this saturation as well, hit OK. Looks better, and I'm gonna decrease these values for the front and left or the sides. Save, and I think these look better now. All right, so they look great. Maybe they have too much reflection at the moment, but I think the culprit for that problem is this inside material. So I can choose a simple material for the bulb in the front, in the center. Let me just drag these there, and for the other one as well. Now we have less reflections and they look more natural and realistic. So what we can do next is to choose to have more reflections on the sides and less reflections in the center. That's what I'm going to do next. And for that to happen, I need to go back to my content browser inside the shader folder and find the material. There it is. Now I'm going to make an exact copy of the nodes that I used for my opacity, and I'm going to use them for roughness. So I'm going to make a copy of these, and I'm going to link a Fresnel inside the alpha like there is one for opacity. So they are exactly the same now. Now all I need is to link the lerp for this one into roughness, and I'm gonna change the name so that I can use the parameters. So I added an ROU to these. So I apply and click on OK, go back. Now let's just try to tweak them until we get the result that we need. Let me just make this. Now I'm going to start working with these parameters, front ROU and left or side ROU. I changed the front ROU to 0.5 and I'm going to keep the left one at 0. So when we look at something in the center, it's less reflective. I'm going to change it into 0.2, so it's less reflective but not as much, but the sides is as reflective as it can get. 0.1 for the center, 0.2 was better. Okay, so we have this shiny spot, so I'm going to find the source of light that causes that shiny spot. It's maybe these lights here, so I'm gonna get rid of them for now. Let's see if we still have that shiny spot on the hanging light. So I'm looking at it from different angles. Maybe it's the one in that on that wall, so maybe I need to get rid of that as well. Let's try that out. No, it wasn't that. So all right, so maybe it's the sun or the directional light that we have outside that is causing this. So I think that's the problem. Let me just try to get rid of this one in the cabinets as well. I'm probably sure that it's the sun. So if I delete this directional light, let's see what happens. I'm gonna delete it now. Okay, so that was the problem, that was the culprit. So now that we got rid of that, our coloring kind of changed because it was affected by that directional light. So we need to change the color again. So I'm gonna make it a lighter shade of brown, maybe something like this. I'm gonna click on OK, go back. All right, I can even change the opacity in the center, change this value to maybe 0.8. Looks instantly better. So we have this attractive, beautiful colored glass, which looks like 100 times better than what it was initially. So I'm pretty happy with the results for these hanging lights. And now we can just start looking at our scene again and see if we have any more objects that we can just work on for practice. I'm gonna create a mirror here on this TV, and after I'm done, I'm gonna revert it back to what it was. So I'm gonna create a material. I'm gonna call this one mirror. Okay, so mirror for this one. I'm gonna double click on it, go to the slate. All right, we need a couple of nodes, an RGB node for the base color. I'm gonna link it to the base color, and a couple of simple black and white nodes for metallic and roughness. And I'm gonna convert everything into parameters. So start with roughness. I'm gonna call this ROU. For metallic, I'm gonna call it ME, and the base color, I'm gonna call it simply color. Okay. Now, I'm gonna apply and go back to our main. I'm gonna drag this material into the TV, and before we create the mirror, look at this TV. Without doing anything, we're just simply creating those simple nodes, we get this beautiful TV. Okay, so this is what a regular TV looks like. Now we're going to create a mirror out of this. So I'm gonna create an instance, and I'm gonna drag the instance into the TV. Now I'm gonna start working with the parameters. First metallic, I'm gonna change it into 1. Okay, I don't think it just got affected. I'm gonna drag the instance again into the TV this time. Okay, so this is what a metallic value of 1 looks like, completely black. And if I want to get a mirror, I need to change the color into white. That's all I need to do. So I'm gonna change the color into pure white, and I get a mirror. And this is a very simple and straightforward way to create a mirror. But if we actually look inside the mirror, the reflections are not that high quality. We have ugly shadows and dark spots. So what we can do to kind of rectify that is to go to post-processing, lumen reflections, and change the quality. But that just that doesn't really affect the scene that much, a little bit only. And we need to do something else too. We can just click on the ray lighting mode, enable it, and choose head lighting for reflections. So if we do this, we're gonna get better reflections and get rid of all those dark spots and ugly shadows. Now we are seeing the sources of light in the reflection, so I'm gonna select the sources of light and I'm gonna go to a specular scale and change it from 1 to 0 so that we don't see the reflections of the sources of light. I'm gonna have to do it for a couple of them that are in that area, and now we are not seeing them anymore. So let me just do it for this one as well. This one also. Okay, so it wasn't that one. Let's see if we have any more in the reflections. Maybe this one. No, that one not as well. Let's see. I think it's this one, so I'm gonna change it into 0. Go back. Yes. All right, now in the final executable file that we're going to make, the reflections in the mirror are going to get even better slightly, but that's basically how we create a mirror, and we're pretty much done with the objects that we wanted to work on in this video. Let me just revert it back into what it was. I'm going to create a shiny plastic again for the TV, so I'm going to make the color black, and yeah, so I'm going to make it pitch black, put the metallic of 0 and roughness of 0.1. Okay, so it is reflective. So this is basically enough for a TV. And maybe if the color is not completely black, pitch black, it would be even better. So I'm gonna choose a lighter shade of black, something like this. I'm gonna click on OK and save it. Okay, so let me just close this, and with that I conclude this session. We pretty much created different objects for our scene, and our scene is a lot better than what we started with. And as we created different materials, we also talked about reflections, refractions, and other related attributes. So we're pretty much done. There's this spot here, and we have a couple of spots here, so I don't know what has happened to these spots. I'm gonna try to find the related material real quick and see if I can apply it so that we fix them right now. Let's try this one now. So let me see what has happened here. So let me check if the problem lies with the object or the applied material. So let's see if I can select the floor. Okay, we have this plane on the floor, one piece. Let's see if we could just move it. Okay, so let me just check from the outside. So if we do a Control Z, put it back where it was. So let me just do one last check. I'm gonna elevate the floor. Okay, so yeah, so the problem lies with the object. The object has been deleted in these parts, so that's the root of the problem, not the material. I can fix this, no biggie. All I have to do is to just load the floor again and we get rid of the problem. Alright, with that we're going to conclude the material videos of our tutorial series, and in the next couple of videos we're going to learn how to place our cameras in the scene and create attractive videos from our project. Make sure you practice, and I will see you in the next one.